Good evening, Cryptid fans. Man, another great show lined up for tonight. I think everybody's doing. There he is. He disappeared for a minute. We got Dusty with us from the original. Well, I won't say originally, but was from around the Michaux State Forest area, and of course Jeff a couple weeks ago, or a week ago, a couple weeks ago, I guess it was, went out
Last
to
weekend.
Michaux State Forest, and it was 2 weekends ago.
Yeah.
2 weekends.
Yeah, two.
And
It's been crazy around here.
and I trust me, I didn't think we was going to have a show tonight earlier today. But anyway,
I wasn't sure.
new computers on the way, new used computers on the way. Anyway, chat's starting to fly. I know we got another show going on. He got a half-hour jump on us because somebody's wife had to work late tonight. So fine, that's okay. Anyway, we got obviously the milkman, Aka Jeffrey, Aka Zipliner. How's Jeffrey tonight?
Well, I'm better now that I'm here. I'm done working on all this other crazy stuff for today.
I hear you. Yep. I talked to you 3 or 4 times on the phone today, off and on.
I don't know how we managed that with everything that was going on.
I know. Sometimes you just need a break. You know, you need a 10-minute.
Because every time you called, I was elbow deep in something. Every time I called you,
I didn't know you had that business. You got that business too, along with dairy cattle.
Yeah.
Elbow deep.
Yeah.
You get it? Anybody understand that joke?
From what viewpoint? From what I mean? That
How's
be
that? How's that? Anyway, brother David, from way out in Oregon. How's David?
I'm good, man. I'm surprised I finally got to be able to be on here without my computer going blank, blank, blank.
Absolutely.
But I'm good. Thank you.
Awesome.
I haven't spotted any dogmen behind you yet.
Yeah, not yet.
No, I don't know where they're at. Dee Dee's got food in the bedroom, so they're probably in there.
Gotcha. All the way over to the other side there, the gleaming headed guy over there with the Bigfoot above his head, that would be Brother Blackie.
Yo.
Chad Black from the Oddcast podcast. Off the record, we invited him on tonight just to hang out with the family, if you will.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate you being here, Chad.
Well, thanks for the invite.
And real quick, new show doing pretty well.
Yeah, doing good. I'm happy. We're happy, I should say.
I was going to say, man, you better correct yourself.
You'll have to check that out.
I would definitely say check out our last episode, the Bug In. My wife did such a phenomenal job on that.
Okay. Did she get to talk?
Yeah, she actually did most of the show.
That's awesome. Because I know you had a guest come in there, and my understanding was nobody else was able to get a word in edgewise after that. So.
Yeah, well,
not that we're talking about Roger Williams or anything. Brother Williams.
He's probably lurking in the background here.
That's okay. That's okay. It's all good. We got to pick on one another. But anyway, tonight, Dusty, man, how are you, man? It's good to meet you. And Jeff was pretty quick to get on the horn and tell me, hey, I think I got somebody from the camp out's going to come on and do a show with us. And I said, that's great, man, because Michaux has always been in the back of my mind. And because, you know, we used to go to Gettysburg a lot, just even in 2020 during the sickness season, if you will. We were out there every weekend. You're muted, by the way. You got your microphone turned off. But it's yeah. But always there's a portion of the Gettysburg area you can look over there and just beautiful view of part of Michaux State Forest over there. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna go over there and camp one day. I haven't done it yet, but it's coming. I'm gonna get over there. We're going to pretty much turn everything over to Dusty, and we're just gonna whatever stories you wanna tell us. Obviously, nowhere in particular over there because it is a vast forest. I guess it covers 3 counties or so, or
yeah.
It's either 28 or like 32,000 acres, something like that, somewhere in that area.
It's quite an area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 108 square miles or something.
Yeah, I looked it up years ago. I can't exactly quote the exact size of it anymore.
When it's in 3 counties, you know that's a big forest.
Yeah. especially in Pennsylvania. It's a pretty big state.
Yeah.
There's no
Uh,
tiny counties in Pennsylvania. So
But yeah,
Adams County.
I really enjoyed living up there. It was great. Yeah. Actually, the very first experience that I ever had was at my first mountain house, which I was at for like 10 years or so. Or not 10 years. I was at the mountain for 10 years, but I was there for about 6 years at the first house, 5, 6 years. And a couple days after moving in, I was like, always been like an avid hunter, fisher. I grew up on a farm, tracking my animals and stuff like that. So, I've always been real in tune with nature and stuff. So I was like, I'm moved in here. I'm gonna go check out the awesome wilderness, see the lay of the land. Check some game trails out, do a little scout, and just see what's going on. And I actually had an eyewitness encounter, like a Class A encounter, right at that very first time. It was pretty wild. It wasn't very, very close. It was very unnerving though. Kind of was like, at first you're kind of like, you see something, you're like, what the heck is that? You're trying to figure it out. You're like, that's not a bear, and well, that's definitely not a dude. That's not no guy out there. If it is, like, what the heck is he doing? Like, how would he even know I was walking up in the woods or anything? But I think it was kind of more of like a curiosity and then startle type scenario. And to be honest, it was pretty much the sense I got by its appearance and the way it looked and everything, age-wise and stuff. It kind of looked like it was like an adolescent or teenage like individual. Granted, it was like 7.5, 8 feet tall and built like a excellent high school athlete, but it had like a red, almost not quite my color red hair, more like a burnt chestnut type color. Real strainy. And it was
Didn't look real well kept.
It didn't look like if it was somebody in a ghillie suit, like it wouldn't even been like somebody in a ghillie suit or anything like that. It was pretty wild. It was probably about 50 yards off when I first originally seen it. And I was just, walking around checking trails, found an old log road, and I'm like, oh, cool. There's all these game trails everywhere. And I look up, and I'm just like, what the heck is that? And I'm studying it, and it's moving around trying to check me out and stuff. And kind of was like at first, like, like you could see, like it was like, oh, it sees me seeing you. You see me seeing you type of thing. It was really weird and off-putting too, because it kind of left you confused, like what's going on here. So then, like, you notice like it's like peeking around things, like there's like a dead tree and a stump, and the stump's probably about knee height to me, and I'm 5'11". So it's kind of like doing this little like peekaboo, look up over type thing, like, and then I kept looking over its shoulder, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird, because I'm obviously a predator. I've hunted and stalked my own prey. I got the sense kind of like I'm not the only predator right now. You know what I mean? It's it's just an overwhelming feeling that you can like sense or feel. So I did like a quick scan around me just to make sure nothing was like encircling me or boxing me in or anything. So the time it took me to do that and look back up, the thing was 30 yards closer. Like now this thing's like 20, 25 yards away, and it's behind a tree that's probably a third of its size, but it's like peeking around and like trying to sway, like it's in the wind, but it wasn't really like with the wind kind of thing. And it did still keep like when it would sway back behind the tree, you could catch it like looking back over its shoulder as it did it. So I immediately, it was like fight or flight mode at this point, just like completely like, this isn't a bear, this isn't a person. I'm not the only predator in the woods, and I obviously feel like I'm not the top predator. So I just scanned real quick around my feet and found this stick that was probably about this big around. I'd say maybe it was just like a piece of limb that fell out of a tree, dried dead debris, broke off in a windstorm or something. But it wasn't very long, probably about 36 inches or something like that. Just an old oak branch, nice and hard. So I grabbed it, and there was a big tree next to me. This thing was about as big as around as a dresser. You know what I mean? If you were to spin a dresser, that's how big around this tree was next to me, this ash tree. So I grabbed this stick up and just went boom, boom, 3 booms on the side of the tree, and on the third one I went, yeah, and I looked up like forward as I yelled and did the third boom, and I didn't see anything there anymore physically, but the tree branch wiggling. I didn't have no gun, no knife, no nothing with me, which is surprising. Usually I have like my pistol when I go into any woods or anything, which is weird. Like I was really like fight or flight mode. Like, am I going to have to run out of this mountain or tumble down this hill of a yard? Like I'm like in some kind of war zone situation or something, running for my life. Type of thought process going on here. And yeah, it really had me going for a loop there. So needless to say, anytime I went back into those woods or the woods, I was always having some sort of protection, whether it be like a nice big sharp machete or a gun. Actually, I was cutting firewood in the snow. And even in the snow, I had like a slug gun and my pistol on my hip or something, you know. But in the same sense, it wasn't just for protection. It was a more opportunistic approach for food gathering as well. You know, if I'm out there, I see some squirrels, I can switch over to a scatter shots, snap a couple squirrels out of the tree. You know, I like living a natural subsistence kind of living, especially in that environment as well. You know, like I said, I grew up we went to the store. It was like to get milk, bread, and maybe noodles and butter. You know what I
Everything
mean?
else
Like
came off the farm, right? Yeah.
yeah, we raised everything else or grew everything else or hunted it, you know, or foraged for it. So yeah, it was definitely an experience to say, you grow up that kind of life and then you like, you know, you don't really think anything, maybe a bear, but like, you know, black bears in this area, they're like 350 pounds. I wouldn't be afraid to really wrestle one of them. They're more afraid. I mean, I'd be more afraid of a mom and her cubs than just a lone bear rolling around, scrapping up some food. You know what I mean? Like, I fight that dude. I've been in bigger fights in the bar or something, you know. But but anyway,
Yeah. Good luck fighting one of them.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. But I mean, I wouldn't want to, but you know, if I had to, I think I'd fare myself as a survivalist and stuff. But yeah, that was like the main. I did go back up after I went down to the house, and my girlfriend at the time, my ex, she was like, she could tell on my face. She was just like, what are you doing? What's going on? And I'm just like, I didn't really want to talk about it at first. I grabbed a couple guns, like I grabbed my pistol, and I did grab a shotgun that had buckshot in it, and just for close up protection or anything. I didn't need anything charging me or anything, so I just was like, just went back up to the exact same area and walked all the way over to where I saw it. Found, like the leaves rustled up. You could see a actual trail. That type of forest and environment, it's not real soil. When it's not rock, there's dirt, but the dirt is decomposed needles and leaves, and so it's real spongy. It's not going to leave anything indefinite. You'll see the leaves tufted up and see a trail, but you won't actually look at all those beads. But yeah, so it's real hard to find anything like that. And I was actually thinking about trimming today. Just a little.
You want to see one that needs trimmed? Let me show you one that needs trimmed. That one needs trimmed.
I forgot to put my oil in tonight.
Anyway.
But yeah, I went up and looked around. Didn't see nothing but the trail, so I followed the trail on foot. Using my stalking and tracking abilities that I've acquired throughout the years. I did have a grandfather who was in the NRA Hall of Fame, and he was also a Maryland State Archer for like 15 years. He actually started the Hunter Safety Course in Carroll County, one of the founders and starters of that at a archery club and stuff. So yeah, I learned a lot, and I always grew up like you never know enough. So type of mentality and philosophy. So I've always been learning throughout the years as well. But one of our things we used to do, like my father used to do with his dad, who was the same grandfather I was just talking about, is he was talking about Gettysburg. We would actually get, because there's no hunting allowed on the battlefield, so there'd be mobs of deer out in these battlefields at night and stuff. Like, I mean, herds. Like, you'd think you'd see buffalo back in the 1800s and stuff, out west, of course. So what we would do is we would get camoed out, and we would like creep on deer, like just crawl through the fields and see how close we could get to them before we would actually alert them and spook them. I've taken my kids out, and we've had deer come and sniff the soles of our boots while we were making makeshift ground blinds and stuff. Just using my own intuitiveness and skills I've picked up throughout the years through my family members from hunting and stuff like that. So it's not like I'm just some guy moving up on the mountain is like, well, let's go for a stroll or anything like that. Let's go see what the trees look like. Can we make some syrup? Nothing like that or anything. So definitely was like in my happy place, like in my spot during these times, of course. So yeah. Go ahead.
Did the fact that you saw one, did that change your mind about the woods at all, or were you more leery, more
I
attentive?
definitely was like, look, I'm not the only predator, and I'm definitely not the biggest predator up in here. So I'm not doing nothing in these woods without any form of protection whatsoever. Yeah. So, like I said, I would like if I was out cutting firewood, because I had 4.5 acres, and whatever wasn't mine was all Michaux State Forest. I was out in it. You know what I mean? So, it was basically like my playground, but in the same sense, like you said, I definitely had some sort of protection, even if it was like a machete or something that I had razor sharp or something. But yeah, so that was like the only encounter I really had for a while, other than like if I was hunting, you would get some uneasy feelings when the woods would go completely silent. Even the insects. You're like, wow, I could sit here and not hear a squirrel or a bird for a half hour, but you're always hearing something, you know.
Somebody's probably
When it
watching you.
gets dead
Some-
quiet,
yeah.
oh yeah. When you get dead quiet, or you feel you can feel a sense of like something's near, something's watching, type thing. And
Well,
it's funny because
you found a lot of stuff out there too, haven't you?
yeah, actually, when I went and followed that trail, actually found an old logging spot where they left log like the stumps where it's like waist height or chest height on a slope. And like some of them they didn't even gather all the way, so there was some still there. You could tell they were old rot. Like when the pine wood turns orange and decomposing in a log form, it's been there a while. You know what I mean? Um, so I actually found those. That was right about where before I lost the ruffled up leaf trail on that ridge following that after that encounter. And there was actually a spot where you could walk on the log and then jump up onto a tree stump that was like one of the taller tree stumps that just looked, and you could and I was like following, and I just had a sense of climbing on this stump. I always liked walking on rocks and logs ever since I was a kid anyway, so I'm over there checking everything out. I'm real thorough about things, and you could see where something was actually like sitting on the stump. Like it was flattened down on the end grain sticking up. It was all rough, and then you could see where it was matted and flattened down and had like a knuckle shape, you know, kind of like um so I actually climbed up and sat there, and I was like looked behind me and stuff, you know. I was still like confused, and I don't know if you want to say fearless, just naive, I guess. I don't know. Curious more than anything, I guess. But yeah, so that was about where I last saw any the roughed up leaves. Like all of a sudden, like you don't really see a trail anymore because the rocks start picking up. So they're like stepping on the tops of rocks to disappear, I guess, or what have you. I don't know. But I guess he was like I'm guessing like a teenager out, just doing his thing, looking around over his shoulder, making sure he wasn't going to get scolded or in trouble by whoever's older than him, his parents or whatever. Because I'm pretty sure they move around in like a family clan or group or something like that. And it was right near like this whole area I lived in was all right off of the Appalachian Trail, big power line cuts and all that stuff, high tension lines, and orchards on the other side of the mountain ridge out the wazoo. So like between the lakes, the river or the streams, spring fed streams just coming right out of the side of the mountain face, you know, they always had a constant food source, no matter if they just walked in a circle all year round. If they just walked in a 1 mile circle all year round, 2, 3 mile circle all year round, they had a constant food source, no matter what they were doing, you know. So between fish, berries, everything else, you know, wildlife, even through vegetation, very diverse and dense difference of vegetation. It's different ecosystems no matter where you go throughout that whole national forest. But it could look like a rainforest 1 minute and then all of a sudden look like you're in a pine forest in up north or something, and then all of a sudden you're in a hardwood forest where it's all oak trees, and you know you might have some hemlocks and stuff that are old granddaddy trees that are like 15 foot around, you know, diameter, not circumference. They're pretty big trees. I had one in the front of my other house that was well over 140 foot tall. It was an old hemlock tree, just huge, man. Size of most people's garage doors. You know what I mean? Like that's how wide this thing was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the natives used to go there. to actually harvest resources. And one of the resources other than food being rocks that they would use for making crafting their tools. There's certain types of rocks that are in that area, especially in the stream beds, that are very durable but break off to where they can actually use for skinning, scraping, and stuff like that as well.
Very possible.
That reminds me
Mhm.
of the camp that we had. I was the one night I was hearing stuff moving around out there and stuff, but I can't definitively say anything because that one camp neighbor did have dogs, and they might have been out walking their dogs or something. But it was awfully strange hearing stuff moving around at like 3:30 at night. You know, as I was just finished putting a couple pieces of wood in the wood stove in the tent. You know, like, who's walking around out in the rain right now?
Yeah, 3:30 in the morning. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I understand dogs got to be walked, but if I got dogs and it's 3:30 in the morning, I don't know if I'm going to go out in the rain. But, you know, I guess if you have to, you have to. But just maybe there's that slight little instance that might not have been somebody walking the dogs.
Yeah, that's true. That's true
Yeah.
because I did find some scat nearby. It was a pretty big turd. But who knows? They had bigger dogs, so it could have been a big dog. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. It was more close to human shape than anything else. But, maybe the guy walking the dog had to pinch one off. I don't know.
You never know.
But yeah, I found some other stuff up in that house, but I didn't have any other like instances or experiences per se, except for like the one time I did get into a real thick rhododendron forest full of mountain laurel, and it was like honeycombed out with like little like areas where like everything was snapped off and broke off, and was just like all the ground was matted down inside and everything. Kind of like little caves inside the rhododendron, but like in like a honeycomb kind of network with tunnels and stuff. That was pretty wild. And I had like it was like stuff was like moving around the outside of the thick stuff with me as I was moving through this, exploring it when I was on one of my little scouting adventures and stuff, and I was like, man, this is kind of weird. Like I can't even see through here to see what's out here. Like I can see movement every once in a while in between little spaces, but you can't see what anything is. So it gets unnerving. So you get to a point where you're just like, either all right, let me get through here real quick, or I'm going to turn around and head back the other way I came, you know. And sometimes you end up having to turn around because it starts getting more narrow, and you can tell things are going through there. Now there could be deer and stuff like that, of course. Deer love shelter, especially when it's raining and windy and stuff. They like getting up underneath pines and in those rhododendrons and stuff like that. So, but it's just weird coincidences that leave you guessing more than anything.
Do you notice that now that you go in the woods, you look for more? Like you're maybe looking for footsteps or branches broken off, or
yeah, I'm always an observant person when I'm in any type of nature. I just love taking it all in. But yeah, I definitely, ever since that very first time, I was always more ultra observant.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely. It's been part of my life pretty much my whole life since the age of 4 or 5. But
Yeah, I mean,
as
we've
I've
gone
gotten up,
camping. I've had weird things go on when I was camping, and we used to go. That was one of the areas we used to go camping. So I used to joke with my family and be like, "Oh, I like to camp in here so much, I moved up here." You know.
but
So
as I got older, the
that's
head's on a swivel all the time. All the time.
yeah. I mean, you kind of got to be like that when you're out in nature anyway.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, there's other predators, coyotes, and I mean, just snakes and stuff in general. There are venomous snakes in this area. There's rattlesnakes, copperheads, so you got to definitely be on alert.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they go on a hike, they're paying more attention to the ground and, eye level. They're never looking up higher. And after being on a lot of these podcasts and hearing a lot of these experiences, I'm like, now I'm looking up in the trees. I'm looking everywhere just in case.
Sure.
Yeah. At my
Go look at the
at my second
trees.
house, that is where I had the most experiences that weren't exactly like eyewitness, like wasn't as a grade as that very first one. Like I used to put corn out for the deer and the turkeys during the off season, just teach my kids about them and stuff, like study them and watch them and stuff like that. Feed the squirrels, and so I ended up getting a bunch of chickens. So I did it for a bunch of years while I was up there. After a couple of times of the corn all of a sudden just disappearing right away, and it would look like scraped up, like the whole ground 5 foot around where I had the pile at would be like completely bare, fresh dirt, like no needles, no twigs, no leaves, no nothing, just dirt. Like it looked like you were ready to plant there or something, or you just planted something there. It's pretty wild. So I would top it back off. I had like a Boy Scout satchel, the little flap over type deal. I would carry that up. It'd carry about 15 to 25 pound of corn, depending on if it was cob in there or not. And I'd carry it up to this spot and dump it every time, and check game trails, go on little hikes and stuff, and just enjoy nature. And once it started disappearing really fast and it getting really cleared out like that, I started getting wondering again. So I was like, I dealt with it. And I'm like, man, I'm paying for this corn. I'm not growing this. I'm living on the mountain now. Like I'm getting it from a guy at work for like, I think at the time it was like $8 or $10 for a 100 pounds or something like that of cracked corn or shelled corn. It still had cob. Some was off the cob already. A lot of it was more loose, but there was still corn cobs and stuff in there. So I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to even drop any off for a while. See how they like it. Maybe they'll appreciate it and not gobble it up so fast, being dumb, think, we think these weird things, and then we're like, what the hell was I thinking that for? but so I did. I waited 2 weeks and I went back up, and all of a sudden there was 2 corn cobs laid in an X right in the middle of that bare spot. I'm like looking around, like as soon as I seen it, I'm like, what the heck's going on here? Like, let me think in my mind real quick and make sense of this. Other than a human, what here could do this? And it did not compute, of course. Squirrel's not going to do it. A deer's not going to do it. Pretty sure a bear's not going to do it. They don't have thumbs, and they're not going to. I don't know. Maybe a pretty smart bear, or pretty fearless bear, really, because it was only 30 feet, 30 yards off of my property line of my yard up into the woods. So like there's an open spot there. I just would like to enjoy the nature. Just go up and sit, watch stuff, eat. Never hunted off of it or anything. I wouldn't get into anything like that anyway. Not from my history or upbringing. You know what I mean? I went question. Pheasant hunting once, and it was kind of dumb because they were released pheasants, so they're like kind of like tame birds that they released, and you're like, all right, what am I supposed to start chucking apples at you so you can fly, so I can shoot you, or you just gonna stand here and look at me? Like, it wasn't even cool to me. Like, this was kind of dumb. Let's go to somebody's chicken coop and just grab some chickens, you know?
Did you, in your
Which
corn
ended-
spot, you ever notice any handprints? Somebody was asking.
No, it looked like scrapes. Like something was to like scrape it up with their hands and their arms and just like gather it up somehow. Yeah. After I did fill it back again, I did put the 2X corn cobs on top, but then I laid sticks on top, like twiggly branches that blew out of a tree. And then just to see what would happen, you know, not expecting anything. And then I go back up and they'd be moved. It'd be moved and stuff. So yeah, and it wasn't like it was just like drug off or nothing. Like after to a point, it ended up getting to a point where I was putting like actual like limbs as a crisscross over top of the corn pile just to try and slow it down from taking it so fast. And you go up and it'd be like something just grabbed it and was like just chucked it, you know, not like it was drug off. You couldn't see where it was drug or scraped or anything. It was like the one was actually up in another tree branch, like in a live tree branch. And I'm like, what the heck? So, yeah, I had there's a lot of weird coincidences and experiences. Like you'd be out hunting in your tree stand, and it would sound like the kids were out back playing while I was out in the woods, and I would go home and like the kids let the dog out or go feed the chickens or something, and my girl, their mom would be like, no, and I'd be like, well, did they go out and play at all or anything while I was out hunting? She's like, no, they were here watching TV and playing PlayStation all day, you know? And I'm like, that's weird. I definitely heard kids in the woods, and my kids were inside. There's no other kids around. Like, there's no other really houses around. Like, my closest neighbor was like an eighth of a mile away, and he was like 72 years old.
It definitely wasn't him.
Old war vet. Yeah, it wasn't him out there playing around. He can't even climb the tree stand no more, you know. Yeah, it was really weird. Other noises I would hear sound like an old rusty barn hinge door opening and shutting. Like it'd be like a bah! And you'd be like, what the heck? That's not a turkey. Because like at first it was like, who's trying to make a turkey call out of something that's not a turkey call? And then you hear it and it starts getting more defined, and you're like, what is that? Like, just weird things. There was an instance where I was traveling. I'd go up and just walk networks of trails, follow them around, see how used they are, find scouting spots and stuff, buck rubs and stuff, and scrapes, and find new locations for hunting, see what's moving, what areas and stuff. And I would see, I came through this one area on this like complete circle syndicate of my area, this existing perimeter kind of like deal. And as you came through, you came down through this like a spring stream runoff with like then it got into a clearing with like a fern patch. And I'm talking like a fern patch the size of a like a pole barn base, you know, that big around. And then it turned back into thick forest again. It was pretty wild. But I was traveling. I'm like, oh, this is right behind my house. So I found this tree. It's about the size of a Pringles can, maybe this coffee cup right here. And I had my machete with me and my pistol, and I'm out hiking. So I just kind of like reached over and was like just little over shoulder height. Just was like scraped off a little bit of the bark on the front, not digging into the tree or nothing, just to leave a white face exposed about this big, because I could see where I sit to hunt. I could see that head of where that trail came through, and then it hit another like network of trails, highly active game trails with massive buck rubs. Like they're rubbing on trees this big, and I'm like, if he's rubbing on trees that big, he's a nice buck. And there was a nice granddaddy buck up through there and stuff. So I knocked that bark off, and it was there about half a month. And one day I went up and just went walking and did that same little similar loop and came out the same spot and looked over at the white face, and if above my head, if I were to stick my arm out like this, that's where the tree was broken off at and linked towards the stream and network of trailheads that like intersected together, like kind of like a intersection of like 6 trails, like a spider web right by a stream bed. And it was really weird because it was a live tree, and I don't know what would have snapped it. There was no other damage around there. You know, like what's going to snap something that big around anyway, just out of nothing? Like it's not like there's ice hanging on it or anything. Like there's no other limbs laying there. It's like something walked up and was like, huh, I didn't do that. Boom. What do you think about that? You know, it was like, what's going on here? Like that's the exact sense I got when I seen it. Like that kind of scenario popped in my head. Like, and like, I don't know if I like picked it up like like it was like them leaving a message and I received it or what, you know, type of thing. But that's what I got from it. There was other times where I had stuff messed with, taken and gone for like a month and then put back in the same spot where it was missing from. And I'm like, what the heck's going on here? Like weird stuff like that would happen. I started having chickens disappear. I thought it was the coyotes. Like I thought it was a coyote family learning how to hunt on my chickens until I found a chicken. And it had like a complete slinky neck with no bite holes whatsoever in it. And I'm like, this thing's like stiff, but its neck is a slinky. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like it won't even close its beak. Like what's going on? Like, so I'm like, all right, this is getting weird. So I hung it up in a tree, actually, ironically, about like 20 feet away from that where I used to have that corn spot. I had already stopped putting corn out by this time, well beforehand, and that might have been why it was messing with my chickens, because I went into mixing my own chicken feed. I would get like I would mix 3 different bags of stuff together in a big steel can with a lid and everything, you know, sealing lid, and so I hung it up in this tree at night. And I had a red light hanging up in another tree to cast an area. It left like a 30-foot area lit up on the floor, but didn't cast no beam, you know, red lights. I hung this thing up. I played calls for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. It's just about to give up on this thing. And all of a sudden I started hearing stuff. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm just going to be here, sitting here in this rhododendron, sitting here in a camping chair and just hanging out, watching, you know, quiet. So I noticed whatever it was, at first it seemed like it was one thing. Then it turned into ended up being like 2 things. But whatever it was, it would just stay on the outside of the light. Like it would never come into the light, but you could see eyes. And it was like a amber coal color eye shine, and like a red hot coal, or orange, whatever, but like an ember like that. And it was weird. I'm like, and it would go back and forth, and then it got to where it was like one would go like here, and then another one would go here. After this one got to a spot, this one would go to a spot, and then one would move again and stop, and then the other one would move over to it again. It was like they were like trying to figure out something. I don't know. But I never ended up seeing what that was. But I do know that I split the chicken open because it was semi-fresh still. I guess I scared them off. That's why I found the chicken. Why they didn't run off with it, or maybe they left it there as a message. I don't know. But I did hang it up in that tree, split open, blood running down and everything. That thing sat there for 2-3 months. Like the flies wouldn't land on it. Nothing would eat it. It didn't go nowheres. It just stayed hanging in this tree. And I'm like, after about the 3rd month, I'm like out there, got my fire pit lit and everything, having a bonfire. I'm like, dude, this thing's freaking gross. I cut it down out of the tree, threw it in the fire. Like, like, get rid of this thing. Get it out of here. This is, what the heck? Why didn't anything touch it? Why didn't the bugs even touch it? Like, it left you with more questions than answers. Definitely.
Huh.
Pretty much every instance that would happen, it would always leave you with more questions, just wanting more answers.
I bet.
Yeah, it was completely weird.
I mean, like when you found those pine cones, after you left that corn out there.
Yeah, the corn cobs. No, there was actual corn cobs. Like,
actually, it's corn cobs. I'm sorry. Why did I say pine cones?
They stripped the corn off the cob and like held it for 2 weeks and then brought it back. Like, please, sir, may I have some more? X marks the spot. I'm like, what's going on here? X marks the spot. There was a lot of X's. I would find a lot of X's to do with stuff.
I remember when you told me that when we were camping. I'm like, it stripped the corn cobs and left them like this.
Yeah. It was weird. There'd be X's of people call them shelters, what have you, tree fabricate, or wood fabrications, I call them. Some kind of manipulation of tree branches, breaks, trees, what have you, constructed into some sort of whatever. There'd be a lot of X's on spots where if I was walking and tracking on these or scouting on these trails, there would be things like there would be an X or an X on the ground, like a limb laid in an X right next to where I would be. Sorry about that. Where I would stop to rest or something. There'd be times where I'd stop and sit on a tree stump that had moss all over it and like just sit there for a little bit, catch my breath, take in nature, take a drink, smoke a cigarette, get up, start walking again, come back the next time. Like it could even be a month and a half later. There'd be a rock sitting right where I was sitting, like a rock the size of what you would put in a stone wall or a fireplace or something. Like what the heck? Where did this come? It didn't fall out of the sky. Like, why is this quartz rock sitting here? This granite quartz rock. Really odd things like that would happen.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah. How about have you seen physical trackways or tracks or anything? Or
like I said, there's a lot of different terrains throughout that area, and a lot of it is spongy or it's rock solid. But I did see stuff near stream beds and stuff where you can see like something like went to go jump up the bank, but like the 1 foot didn't quite make it, and you could tell the toe scraped down, and I'm like, whoa, that looks like a dude's foot did that or something. It wasn't a bear or deer or anything like that. Didn't see nothing like that I could actually like cast or anything like that. Because I did have I do construction all my life, so I did have bags of plaster powder laying around, and I would carry it around in one of my bags that I would have. I'd have like a hip bag, sort of like this or something. Always have like a crembit or a machete or something with me, tomahawk, something like that. If I didn't have just, of course, my pistol and stuff.
Hey Jerry, who's Sean talking about that was doing the Bigfooting down around?
That's that guy does the Colorado Bigfoot.
Colorado Bigfoot. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. He did a show with a couple locals down around the BWI airport in Anne Arundel County. Quite interesting. Pretty cool. I mean,
I might try getting a hold of Thundercloud again and see if.
Yeah.
I think that's who he was down there with, wasn't it?
I don't. It's been probably a year since I've seen the show. I don't remember who it was, but it was a good show, and you could hear. It was obvious where they were at because you could hear the aircraft overhead getting ready to land. So he said he was in Maryland, not far outside of Baltimore and D.C. So there's only one place that could be.
It had to have been BWI.
Exactly.
It had to have been BWI.
Yeah, because there's some pretty thick woodlands down there.
Dusty's familiar with part of the state.
Other than Dulles, that's the only close airport.
Yeah, Dulles.
Really.
But if they're in the woods that I see that they're in, I think they're in Anne Arundel County.
Yes, Mary. Dave Thundercloud.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely migrate in some areas depending on what the situation. I think they don't really migrate too much. Like up there, I think they just make a big like cycle loop. Like they'll go from the lakes around to South Mountain area to the orchards and just keep cycling around like that throughout the whole year.
Such a big area up there. It's such a wide open.
Yeah, and there's different seasons of food no matter where you go up there. I mean, they're
I really want to try getting back there in the fall. That's when I want to get back there.
Yeah, it's real active in the spring and in the fall. Summer, I don't know.
I think it's when March comes now.
When it's dead heat of the summer and everything's dry, it's hard to see any sign of any kind of activity unless you're finding ruffled up leaves that are decomposing type of thing, you know.
That's right, Sean. Yep. Wow.
I can't see all the
yeah.
The chat
thing. Now, Dusty, you've had stuff happen at the other places you've lived at too, right?
Oh, I always grew up with yeah, that was more paranormal though. Yeah, that was more supernatural paranormal type stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
We cover that stuff too.
Here at Dusty's workshop, this place has got some supernatural paranormal activity. Actually, the guy's station that I'm working at is he was a family friend who has passed, and he plays tricks every once in a while and stops by from time to time, I think, because I'll see stuff flash and shadows move and things will, like, I'll be the only one in the room working and things will disappear that I'm working with. And I'll be like, where'd it go?
Hey, Jerry sent me a
find it like 20 minutes later in the same spot I was looking.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck?
Yeah, Jerry sent me a haunted puzzle from his mother's house. I kept finding random pieces of it, and finally I was like, yeah, we're getting rid of this thing.
Yeah, why do you think I got rid of it? Just kidding. I had no idea. I'd say the dog's back.
I kept picking them up, and I'd go back in the room, and I'd find more of them on the floor. I'm like, what in the... I'm not keeping this thing. You're lucky you didn't send me a Ouija board because I'd haunt you after I died.
There's no Ouija boards here. Never been any Ouija boards here.
Yeah, I was about to say before when we first started the live, if my stuff cuts out, it usually cuts out around like 9:30-ish, 10:30-ish. There's like weird times, and then you'll go out to smoke. Like I'll be watching podcast or listening to something while I'm working here, and I'll go out and you look up at the sky and you can see like, I don't know how to describe it. It's weird. It's like energy beams or something, waves like traveling through the sky. You just see but it's like of like light kind of.
I think
weird
that's a
looking.
Pennsylvania thing personally. There's a lot of creepy stuff goes on
This
up
is
around the
Maryland.
mountains of
I'm in
Pennsylvania.
Maryland
Oh,
where I'm at.
oh my goodness.
Right at the moment, yeah. So
Yikes.
Hey,
yeah,
I
it's
saw a
almost like
flash
the
of
old
light.
like strobe lights from the old car dealerships or movie theaters from back in the
Yeah.
day. How they have the old spotlights they would
Yeah.
shoot in the sky, almost
Yep.
like you see one of them, but it doesn't go like side like this. It's just like a, and then just as soon as you see it, it's
Yeah.
gone. Like you're seeing the tail end of it all of a sudden. It's pretty weird.
That's interesting.
Dusty, I don't know if I told you this, but the weekend before I was out there camping with you guys, I was in Western Maryland, and I saw some sort of flash of light one night, and out where we were, there couldn't be anybody out there, especially on the side of that ridge,
Right.
because where that light flash I saw looked like somebody turned a real bright LED light on real quick, just like a big flash. And I looked over there, and for whatever reason, no one ever camps there when we go there.
Right.
We've been there twice, and I have never seen anybody camping back in that spot.
Camp near you either.
Hey, I camped with. It's okay.
I'm just picking on
No, Patrick, it was not an ash falling off my cigar. But like that spot, I've been up that ridge and that area you got to climb. You couldn't be standing up there flashing anything around and then just take off without any light because you'd end up falling down the side of that thing.
It gets weird when you see stuff that you can't replicate.
I had the thermal with me, and I couldn't see anything up on. I mean, that where it came from was less than 100 yards from where I was standing. So,
yeah. Actually, I was real leery. I forgot to mention that earlier when I did go up to the camp where you guys were at. Because I was like, man, I'm kind of putting myself out there. I don't really know anybody. I don't know nothing. Like, I'm pretty fresh to all this. I just went out and had things happen. You know what I mean? Didn't look for stuff. I was either hunting or just bebopping through the woods, And so I was like, man, I don't know what's going to go on here. I don't know if I want to show up, if they're going to be trying to recreate an episode of Finding Bigfoot, being out there just banging on stuff and hollering, and stuff, all this stuff. Like, I don't know what's happening. Not to say anything about that show or anything. Anybody that goes out there and does anything at all whatsoever, that does any type of research or anything, like, hat off to you. You got boots on the ground.
Yep.
Good job. Like, there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, I'm, this, that, and the other. Like, I know this, and this, and like, it's like, well, when was the last time you was out? Well, yeah, you've never actually even been in the woods, huh? Like, maybe you drove through the woods. You never actually went out and did anything, And I know a lot of the times the stuff that does happen, it's like it's not it might seem like a coincidence to you, but it's probably intentional by them. Like, they want you to know. Especially from some of the other experiences I haven't quite shared yet, that I experienced. They do definitely have other capabilities other than, like, I can't say 100% it's not capabilities we don't have. It might be capabilities that we're not even in tune with anymore, or lost touch with, or bred out of us. You know what I mean? They talk about the natives and the old world people being able to use their voice and frequencies to open up portals and stuff like that. You get into that whole big rabbit hole and stuff. I've actually encountered the ultrasound from them and was left stuck for like 2.5, 3 minutes, like, couldn't move, sitting still with my hand on my pistol grip, and if something were to come and grab me, I wouldn't have been able to pull it anyway. I couldn't move. Every cell in my body was vibrating like a tuning fork. Type of thing. it gets really sketchy, but it always leaves you wanting to know more. Like, at least for me, I've always wanted, it's not like I'm out there trying to find anything out or expose anything or none of that, like just prove anything. It's just, I want to know,
Yeah.
and I want to share the nature with you because I love nature. I want to, I'm not here to take your food or hurt your family. I hope, we can share the mountainside together, just don't take nothing from me. I won't take nothing from you. And hopefully neither one of us have to defend ourselves,
Well, except for that time I, walked in on that one working on the deer stand at night. Other than that, I've never had anything scary happen as far as that goes. But it seems like if you just don't, if you don't act like you're trying to do anything, they're probably not going to mess with you.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times I feel like there's been time where I was out there just cutting logs down to build structures for myself for like hunting and stuff. Like I was going to build like a little hunting cabin blind at one point in time. I actually abandoned the project because I kept getting real uneasy because I'd fall a tree and start on another one, and it felt like there was something around me just like, hey man, get the hell out of here, stop doing that, type of feeling. And you hear things moving around you, and you can see movement, but you can't really pinpoint on nothing on detail because there's thick branches and stuff around, you kind of get unnerved and
Yeah.
you're like, hey man, you hear other things breaking and falling in the distance. You're like, all right, maybe I'm making somebody mad. I might want to stop this now. There was actually one tree up there that I left that I never completed falling, and I was falling it by hand with an axe. And it got to the point where I was hearing some really strange, breaking off branches off in the distance that sounded like they were the size of baseball bats snapping. And I'm like, I gotta get out of here now. This is whatever can do anything like that. I can't defend myself against if I wanted to. I'm not the top dog in here, so I'm just gonna respect it and leave it be at this point. Apparently, something's not happy. I value my family and my life a little more than trying to find anything out to an extent. You know what I mean? Yeah. Find something out the wrong way. I should say.
I think as long as you're not, as long as you're being respectful, you're not going to have any problems with them.
Yeah. They can definitely sense your intent.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Well, like the couple times I've had experiences out there in Allegheny in Western Maryland, like this year, I heard noises awesome again. Area. Yeah, Western Maryland is. In fact, I found out listening to another show the other night that John Green, if anybody remembers John Green, he had it in one of his journals that Bigfoot, as far as Maryland, was like on in his top 5.
5
for encounter. Yeah.
Yeah. I forget what it's called. There was a guy I was just watching. He did a investigation and stuff out in Hancock.
Yeah, that was the one I was watching. He brought that up.
Yep. I mean, we used to go camping out there. We used to go to
I used to
Ridge,
go out around. Remember New Germany? You ever been to New Germany? It's out there.
I haven't been there.
It's in Garrett.
Yeah, it's in Garrett County.
Out towards Deep Creek, and I've stayed out in Deep Creek too. And
yep,
man,
yeah, we would go out every year in November for deer season. It was something my dad and my pappy used to do, and they would go out for a weekend or two and go hunting, or do a whole week out there, depending on the weather and availability or what have you, for work scheduling. So it was another thing, that legacy kind of thing that my dad had passed on to me and my brothers and stuff, and I kind of the same want to do with my kids, as long as they're interested in it. But yeah, we would go out there every year in November, and there would be times where we'd be out there, and like Dad would get us set up, and then he would go and get to his spot, and then we'd have walkie talkies and stuff, and eventually he'd be like, all right, you guys see anything, after hours upon hours, it's like, all right, everybody's getting hungry, let's move back to camp. Maybe we'll go just walk some trails in the evening after we eat, before the sun goes away. There'd be times you'd be sitting,
I love Western Maryland.
Stuff would come flying over towards you and stuff.
Yeah,
like little pebbles and stuff, like from the stream beds. You'd have sailing over, and you're like, acorns ain't dropping. Like, they ain't that acorns when there's rocks landing over here 10 feet away from me, 8 foot away. You can see a little stone bounce. It's like, that's not an acorn. What's going on over here? Yeah, that's over by Deep Creek. We would go camping in like Meadow Mountain and stuff like that too. Deep Creek area. Have some strange things happen. Sometimes you'd be like, that's my cousin's playing tricks. You never really know.
That's your buddy Jeff?
Yeah, that's
we were talking about.
I'm gonna talk to him and see if he wants to come on.
Yeah, but Maryland, I'm sitting here and brag on Maryland.
There's still more stuff coming out of it.
There's nothing to brag about Maryland, but
it's anything that's touching the Appalachian Trails definitely got activity going on.
Absolutely.
Any state that has state forest that's any kind of size.
Anything. Eastern Shore of Maryland's hot. It's a hotbed. We've had some people on that's investigated down there, and they go back frequently because there's a lot of activity down in that Pocomoke.
And I think they're planning on. Levon had said they're planning on going there again soon.
Yes, they are.
And they want to try to get some of us to go with them.
And that daggum pointed-eared things seem to be pretty prevalent in this crazy state too. So.
Oh, Mary's got a guest tomorrow night's talking about Eastern Maryland.
Oh, okay, cool,
awesome, good deal, Mary.
Specifically the Eastern Shore.
I'll have to check it out.
Make sure you go watch it. Don't make Mary mad. She'll Hawk smash it.
I saw that. Yeah, I was. That's how I got into going up to that camp with Milkman and everything. I was just I just caught the Monkey Wrench Wednesday podcast or something, and was sending out some comments, and she's like, actually, week or so we're going over there to camp if you want to stop by, So I was like, okay,
unfortunately, Mary wasn't able to make it, but we still had a good time. Got to meet Crystal and Solomon and Bud and Angie, and got to meet.
I kind of felt bad.
Got to meet Dusty and his boy. Your boy reminds me of mine when he was that age. Good Lord, he was into everything.
He's a pistol, true to his name. Cold is.
He's out there rain. It's out there raining. I wake up and I look out and I see his kid out there shirtless, running around like a maniac,
looking like Donnie from the Wild Thornberries and stuff. Yeah, he's a trip. Yeah, he definitely gets it honest.
I'd say there's a couple people there in chat. We're gonna get a hold of them people, Jeff. And
yeah. Has anybody got any questions or anything?
Absolutely. By just put them on all caps so we can catch them real quick, and we'll get some questions over here to Dusty and check it out. Hard to believe it's been over an hour already. Wow.
Yeah.
That flew by.
I don't know. The one guy in the chat said he was going to sleep. It was his nap time. I don't know.
No, that's the guy above you.
I fall asleep.
He's talking about Jeff.
Yeah. I thought I was boring him to sleep. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll get one of them on next week, Jeff. Get one of those off the chat for next week.
I'm trying to
catch some other.
Trying to catch up here. The chat is like flying,
Yes, it is. Very busy. We appreciate it.
So, what do you guys think about the I have a theory or idea that maybe like all these are kind of like us with our like different types or breeds or species of like human, like different ones depending on their different areas and where they hail from or whatever. I feel like different ones have evolved different ways, and they're like different, kind of like, you know, how we have like Chinese and Indian and American and Native American, you know what I mean? Like, I think that we have like, it's kind of like a similar thing with
A different
them.
nationality, so to speak, like
Yeah,
we
like a
deal with.
nationality. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think,
yeah.
yeah, I could. Excuse me. I think that's very possible. Yeah, definitely different breeds of the type. You got mean ones. You got that we know of.
Some that are really huge and
Yeah,
stocky,
sure.
like
Different attitudes, just like a human
yeah,
being, really. Like a
yeah,
superhuman,
exactly.
if you will. Yeah, yeah. I
Mm,
think that's not far fetched at all to think that there's a different nationality of the breed. Yeah, for sure.
for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
I definitely think there's something like that going on.
Lord's asked a question to me, but I'm going to open it up to everybody. Where was it at, Jeff?
Let's see.
Basically, it was what do you think attracts them? Is there anything that seems to attract a Bigfoot, like a scent, or maybe objects that seem to be of interest? Human beings, for one. We are
Yeah,
their entertainment. We are their TV. Because we
yeah.
just a lot of people go about their lives, don't realize what's really going on out there, and we are pure entertainment for them.
Oh, there's
So,
Roger. He must have heard us talking about it.
hi,
We
Roger.
definitely are. Definitely are. I forgot to mention at the beginning as well that I've always been like a super in tune with like other things, kind of like I don't know, not like a psychic medium or anything like that, but I've always been in tune with like other things. Like I've always had experiences with like
Hmm.
ghosts, stuff like
Yep.
that. I've been really in tune with other spirits and other things of that nature. Um, and when we were
Yes.
up at the camp,
Definitely don't do that.
I would, if I was going to leave it anything, I'd like put like rocks or something out. Like
yeah,
they're obsessed with
Well, gifting could be just as bad. There's
the
been
blue balloons. I've found all over the place. Not saying I'd put them out, but I have
right.
found them.
yeah.
It's, I've heard horror stories with gifting too, but
I've
definitely
heard.
the food
Uh,
is a big no.
That's why I don't. That's why I don't leave them anything.
So
I've moved
Dusty.
stuff that I found, and I've found stuff laying in my yard and it was like an object that like a rock that I moved, and I'd go out to put the chickens away or something, and I'd see it laying in the yard in between the chicken coop and the fire pit before. That was pretty wild.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, David. Was you going to say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Sean Collins asked, "Did you get any stinky smells?"
Yeah, actually, one time I had a experience where I was hunting in a ground blind that I made out of a crisscross of logs that had been fallen years ago. I guess a guy that previously lived there was cutting firewood and never gathered it all up, or something to that nature. Well, I used it to my advantage and made a natural ground blind out of it, kind of like a little cubby hole. It was on a slope, and actually did get a very smelly, like musky, wet dog, dead skunk cabbage rolled around in all at the same time type of smell. And I'm like,
I've smelled that. That's yeah.
what? It was weird because I started hearing noises behind me, which I couldn't see all the way. And then I would be like, oh, maybe this is the big, because I smelt that smell. I'm like, bucks have musk. They have musk pads and stuff. I'm like, maybe that's the granddaddy buck, like I ain't never, but I've had that also smell like when I was in those cavern type things in the rhododendron forest, like that honeycomb little cavern type cave network, the tunnels and stuff. It had like a weird, like skunk cabbage, musky smell to it. Also,
So our new friend Sherry Radway asked too. She said, "Dusty, I had a screaming woman encounter. What does that mean?"
I don't know. That could mean a lot of things. To be honest, it could not even be a Bigfoot. That could have been some kind of other elemental or some other type of cryptid.
First thing that jumps into my head is a cat, big cat.
That could be a cat. Could be a cat. Foxes, when they're in heat, they sound like a woman yelling for help as well. Red foxes, because of their call and their yap that they do. Could have been a Bigfoot giving birth. Who knows? You know,
could be a banshee, could be a mountain lion. You don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Unless I actually heard the sound myself, I couldn't actually tell you what.
Ooh, look what Squatch and Holler just said.
What I would possibly think it could be. It could be many things.
Yeah. So Bigfoot Bud's asking. Bigfoot Bud's asking, how long did you and your boys stay after that they left? And did you see or hear anything?
Where's that even at?
When we were camping, Dusty. When did you? How long after I left did you leave?
I left Sunday. I left Sunday afternoon, like right before 3 o'clock. It might have been a little bit right after because I was talking to Crystal and stuff. Her and her boy was, saying bye and stuff. And of course I forgot something. So I had to turn her, got waved down before I left and fetched that. And then he got a juice box for the road and a snack, I'm like, man. He definitely ate better than I did the whole time we were there. And I had plenty of food. I ate like I had a tapeworm to begin with. So I don't even know how this kid even fit it in his little body. Like, but yeah, he loved it. I didn't really have a whole lot going on. I did leave some things. I did share with Milkman while we were there, right when he was leaving, that I did have an thing happen. We had gone for a walk on that trail that you guys had gone on. But we went the opposite way. We went the way you guys were coming back. We went out that way. And we got to that one gated area where there was like another trail shooting off to the right, the gate. Well, there was a tree that was bent all the way down and into a
we
loop.
saw that.
When I was walking up there, it's funny because I was feeling like that sense and stuff, like, and it was kind of weird because he was like, he saw the camera, so he's like, let me have the camera. I'm like, okay. So I gave him the camcorder and had it on record and was like, don't touch nothing, just walk with it. So he's like, shoot, he's like acting like he's like a movie man or something, So as we're walking, and so I started getting weird senses. I started seeing like movement off in the distance on the right side of the trail, on the same side that trail and with the gate and that loop tree was. And it starts getting dense and then it opens up again to where it's just like little hardwoods. And I started feeling like I heard people talking, like 2 or 3 people talking to each other, like,
I must have missed that part when I was packing up.
he ain't a hunter, is he? I didn't actually go into full detail with that with you because I didn't really want to hold you up too much. Plus you.
Yeah, well, that's I've heard stuff like that before.
Yeah, and it's like, he's not really a hunter, is he? Like, I just said out loud, like I thought it, and then I said it out loud. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just enjoying nature. And we kept walking, and then we got to that loop tree. As soon as I thought I saw movement again near that loop tree, I went to go ask him. As soon as I thought to ask him for the camcorder back, he goes, "Dad, what happened?" And he hands it to me, and the screen's blank. And you can turn the thing on and off. Like it would make the noise like it's turning on and off, but the screen was blank and it would not do anything. And I'm like, what the heck's going on? Like this thing's fully charged. Like
Gary,
what's going on here?
highlight Sean's last one.
Yeah, I want to. River Marsh was asking you a question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you're okay. If you can see it on the screen.
What are they? I don't really know. Good day to you, mate.
He's down
I
under.
think that's I don't know. It's kind of like a layered answer for me, to be honest. I think that we were probably I don't know. They could be a lineage off of us. Like we split ways and they chose their path and we chose ours throughout the evolution or whatever, and now they're just damned to live in their lifestyle or what have you. But yet they're still in tune with abilities that a lot of us have lost capable being able to use or being in tune with. Then you get into like the whole, people think about like the whole Nephilim or offspring of the Nephilim type theory as well. Some of that stuff kind of could play in. They're definitely more intelligent than just some kind of ape like tromping through the forest hiding from people. Like it's not a monkey hiding from people, guys. It's obviously something more there.
Yeah, there's definitely more to it than that.
What it is. They've definitely got abilities, and some of the abilities we may be able to still activate ourselves with training, or some of it we just might be completely lost touch with because we can't. We're so far distant now. You know what I mean? Through breeding, different breeding scenarios and things. I don't know, genetically and stuff.
But there's just so many. There's so many things that they could be.
I mean, I have a buddy that actually told me that he had his pituitary gland removed when he was a child because he kept having visions of the future when he would dream at night. And it was freaking everybody out. So the doctors came up with this idea to take his pituitary gland out so he wouldn't be able to see the future or some shit. And I'm like, excuse my language. And I'm like, what? Like, but his parent actually verified that he had this operation done. And I'm like, what does this even mean? Like, what did you just tell me this for, dude? Just to confuse me? Like, what are you telling me right now? Like,
well, they also, because I'll do what I do on my show, talk about fluoridation and all of our stuff affecting your pineal gland, which is technically your sixth sense that you.
Yeah, it's your mind's eye, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe somebody else is trying to get us not to have that.
Yeah, that is true too. I mean, you get into that whole rabbit hole with the fluoride, callousing it, and everything else. Because you get into old English accounts and accounts from people coming over back in the 1700s and coming into contact with Native Americans that have completely white smiles and all this stuff, like their teeth ain't rotted away looking like candy corn or nothing like that. And yet, they get all these things, put it in all these additives and chemicals into things saying, oh, it's to keep your teeth and your bones strong. And it's like, well, I didn't really have problems with my teeth until I started taking these tablets, or I started drinking this, or, whatever. So it's kind of like,
then that's what I always, that's like, what I always say
watch
is that
this hand, but don't look at this hand at the same time on some of these things. So it's kind of hard. You got to just research things and look into it yourself, really, to actually find your own interpretation, I guess. How do you guys think about the mind speak thing?
I've never heard it myself personally, but
Me neither.
We've heard enough of enough experiences where
yes,
people say they might speak to them.
yes.
Yeah, it's not something. And to be honest, I think some people have had it happen and not even like picked up on it because it's kind of subtle how it happens. To be honest, because I've actually had it happen that time that I had that smell encounter in that ground blind that I manufactured, and had that same instance where I experienced the ultrasonic or ultrasound or whatever frequency or whatever you want to call it. Really weird. Really
That's
weird.
been reported.
It's like you start asking yourself and answering your questions and like your voice and another voice until you're like, wait, what? I'm sitting out here hunting for 2 hours. Why am I doing this? I've never done this before in my life. Like, what's going on here? And then it's like they catch one that you caught on. They're like, ah.
Mhm.
Kind of weird. This is really weird.
Well, that night that I was in the hammock the weekend before I was out with you guys, I'm laying there, and this was the day after the flash.
Well, you weren't supposed to talk about that, Milkman. Took you away.
Anyway, I'm laying there, and I've heard stuff there before.
Where'd he go?
And it sounded like gibberish, like there was two conversations going on out by the fire pit.
I love being able to sit here in the workshop and talk to y'all about this stuff, man. That's pretty cool.
It was
having a
nuts.
blast. I really enjoy you guys having me on.
You can't make this stuff up. When
With
I
that
wake
camera
up
thing.
and I hear this talking.
Well, he's logging back in because I already told him about the camera thing. Back to with my boy in that camcorder. I waited an hour and a half after I got back to camp. Tried to turn it, like, reboot the camera and turn it back on and everything. The screen still didn't work. The screen didn't work until after the sun went down, and it didn't work until like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. It was weird. And then I was telling somebody about it and walked over and grabbed it and showed it to him, and it turned on and came right on perfectly. It was pretty well. I missed exactly everything you said, Milkman.
Hold on.
They took
What
you
I was
to
going to
another
say
realm.
is, what I heard samurai chatter.
See,
The
I've
weekend
heard.
before I was with you.
Okay.
Middle of the night, laying in my hammock, had to get up to pee. That's when this stuff always happens to me. And I got up and rolled out, and I heard it, and it sounded like it was coming from the from the fire pit. But the problem was they were both asleep, and I could tell Sam was asleep in the hammock next to me because the way they sag when you lay in them. And I knew Josh was asleep, and I'm like, huh. And I'm in my head going, all right, guys, I'm just getting out to pee. I'll leave you alone a minute. It kind of, toned down, and I got back in and snuggled back in, and it started up again.
That's wild. While we were camping, I had a little bit of a instance kind of like that, but it was more like a whispered sound. Like it sounded like it was off in a distance, off on the other side of where Crystal was. And it was weird because it sounded like it was up on that ridge, like where that RV of those ladies with the e-bikes parked that rode the trail for a day and then left. It was weird. It sounded like it was up there, and it sounded like kind of whispering. And then there was a couple times where it was like I had smoke come in my tent, like something capped off, like something like capped off my wood stove pipe. And there was no wind blowing or anything like that at that time, just that rainfall and stuff in between the rainfalls. And it was like you said, like I was laying there, just fed the thing, and I'm like sitting there, like it's an hour's going by after I fed it, and I'm like, man, I really got to pee, but I don't know if I would want to walk out here because it's kind of wet. Well, so I'm just kind of laying there, and then I started getting that feeling. So I was kind of like, just out here enjoying nature. Don't mean any disrespect. Just trying to learn and enjoy, type of thing. Thinking in my head out loud at the same time. That's the best thing to do, I think. Like if you feel like something's around, like you got to express yourself in a positive way. Because as soon as you go into a negative state, if you do it in front of the wrong one, I definitely believe like the alpha male or the father figure or whatever you want to call him, he's going to mess you up. Because he's going to be like, look here, little dude, this is my spot. And this is my grounds. This is my stomping grounds, and I'm going to stomp you out, bro. That's how people become missing and like find torn apart and smashed up against trees and stuff. Like you initiate the negative, and the negative's going to happen tenfold on you. You know what I mean? If you go in there respectful and just broadcast it, like, hey man, I'm just here trying to do my thing. It was one of the things I did while I had that mind speak happen. Because it asked me what I was doing. And I was like, just out here enjoying nature and harvesting food for my family. What are you doing? And it said the same but different. And it made me laugh. I started chuckling out loud. I'm like, same but different. And then it was like, I kind of like pissed it off or something by doing that. It was weird. But they had asked me if I believed in God and stuff. It was weird. After I said, yeah, that's that. And then I explained my belief is when it was like, it did this real deep of a bear, a lion, and Andre the Giant, a dude bigger and stronger and deeper voice than Andre the Giant, were to go, whoa, like that, all at the same time, like roar, yell, and do that whoa at the same time, and create this frequency that makes every cell in your body, like it felt like my toenails were vibrating like a tuning fork. Every cell in my body was vibrating like a tuning fork while my hair was standing up. It felt like every hair on my body was standing up, even on my toes. Once you experience something like that, you're like, you're not the baddest dude out here in the forest. And don't ever think you are.
Yeah. We got a lot of new people in here tonight.
All right.
Who do we got? Welcome. Thanks for coming by.
I'd have to go back to look at the list, but we have.
I love you. I love your show.
Well, we've got Amanda. Lourdes is a new one, and Sherry.
Yeah, there's a couple new names in here. Yeah.
I think there's a couple more, but everything's been
flying by. For sure.
I'm really enjoying getting new people on here. This is good.
I love it. I love these shows where people can share their experiences and get to learn all kind of new things.
Yep. We give the floor to them and let them have at it.
I got lucky enough to, make some new friends 2 weekends ago.
You're special, Jeff.
Hey, everybody loves me. What can I say?
Haha, I'm back. I told you I would. You can't get rid of me that easy. Yeah, and it's really an honor to be able to talk to everybody and like have this open up to like this is my third time actually being out in like the public really talking about this stuff, dude. It took me a while for my first time to even do it, and that was just like a phone conversation with Jeremiah on Bigfoot Society. Episode 712, if anybody wants to listen to it. It's kind of me rambling, but there's some other details that I may have left out in here. And it's weird because come on and hang out with us. Okay.
Yeah, in the chats. There's several. There's probably a show one every night of the week.
Yeah.
At least.
So
yeah, I've been coming on here recently. Ever since I met Milkman and got the old line Cryptids hook up, you know. He gave me that hook up.
Dusty said Milkman took him down a whole new rabbit hole when he was 16.
Well, I mean,
thank you,
I was
Sean.
already down that rabbit hole, you know what I mean? I was just happy to be around like-minded individuals that weren't trying to make it like some kind of funky publicity TV show.
No, we definitely do not do that.
Are you a Christian?
Not to discredit anybody that does any kind of research.
Right.
Let me get that perfectly clear. Like, there's one thing where people actually do research, and then when they do get time on a camera, they kind of go do their own thing.
Yeah, Miss Mary's asking if you're a Christian. Yeah.
Yeah, I was born a Christian Lutheran background. I'm more spiritual, universal style belief now. Kind of scientific to an extent. At least saying that because of the, you know, my personal belief is everybody does have a soul. A soul is measured by energy. And it's been scientifically proven that a body dies and the energy leaves its body and, you know, loses weight and everything. It's been physically measured and stuff like that. What happens to your energy, to me, could happen in that's a big onion for me. There's a lot of layers to that. That's like a whole podcast question for me. You could run half a podcast on that one.
Oh, yeah.
And we could
I mean,
definitely, anybody that wants to do that, we could definitely do that. You could ask me what my whole theory is, but I mean, to make it short, I'm not saying there's no heaven, there's no hell. I don't believe that there isn't. I never said that there isn't. I would never say that there isn't. But I also think that also in the same hand that maybe, you know, you go back to the whole fallen angels thing and people theorizing that about the Nephilim and the giants or whatever these might be, the offspring, what have you. Maybe they were something that was in our evolution and we strode one way towards the higher power and they were kind of pushed off, like they did their own thing and they were like, okay, you know, y'all are damned to do what you do for the rest of forever. Live out there in the woods and do that stuff. You know what I mean? Who knows? Who am I to say though, you know? But yeah, I grew up a Christian background, Lutheran. I don't go to church every week anymore. Kind of got to a point where I was forced into church when I was younger.
I'm always working on Sunday mornings, so I got an excuse.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working all the time too, but I get to the point where I start asking questions, and then it gets awkward, and then I'm like, okay, I don't know if I can come to this church anymore.
No.
Well, it's funny because every time I go, they're always looking at me like,
yeah, who's this
like,
newcomer?
Everybody knows who I am. I hear all the time.
Yeah. I get that sometimes too. I don't know.
Fortunately, I know everybody at the church, so
there's been churches that I've gone to that I used to go to, and to be new pastors or fathers or whatever, preachers, and they might get a weird sense from me. I don't know. Like I said, I've always been really in tune with a lot of things. I've noticed ever since I was young growing up. So, who knows?
Well, once you get into this subject, you start noticing a lot more stuff.
Yeah. Well, ever since I had supernatural and paranormal experiences is when I mean, I met my dead grandmother that I never even met as a spirit coming through the yard when my mom and dad were fighting one time. It was pretty wild. And
Wow.
I've had other experiences when I was younger. That house that I grew up in, it was actually a pioneer house. My mother grew up in it. I grew up in it. The family was originally from Baltimore. They moved out to the country type thing. Grandparents had a farm. My mother and her parents had a farm, and all the brothers and sisters. And built back in the late 1700, early 1800s. That's as close as the appraisers that we had could give us. We had 5 appraisers when my mom and dad split up, and all they could tell us was this house was built before Abraham Lincoln was even born to be president. That's the closest reference we can give you. So, but that was back in the day when they would build the blacksmith shop, which was like our shed at the time, modern day. They built the blacksmith shop, lived in the blacksmith shop while they built the log house. That way they could make the nails and everything and have a fire and cook and live and eat and have heat, type of thing. There would be times where I'd wake up in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning in the middle of summer, go out to take a leak in the bathroom and hear horses drawing wagons and people banging on anvils and talking. And yeah, it's pretty wild. Ever since then, it's just, and I never stopped exercising it. It's just another muscle I try to keep exercising, like your mind is just as big as a muscle as your heart. They say we only use so much of our abilities with our mind and stuff, and I'm a pretty artistic type person too, so I mean I do custom woodworking for a living. I just try and stay in tune with as much as I can, maybe open up even more as much as I can,
Cool.
All right. Any questions, folks?
Come on with it.
Give you a couple of minutes and we'll get her wrapped up here shortly.
Well, I hope I wasn't too boring for you guys. I mean,
it's good, Dusty.
I feel boring when I talk about it because I feel like I'm just like rambling on sometimes.
I appreciate a guest that speaks everything. That's what you did. That's what we like.
And I do my own thing because I kind of like look at everything at all angles throughout all of life, and like I try like through my type of work that I've done throughout the years, so everything. I mean,
There's one known bounty. That was, I believe, Kansas. Am I right with that? Oklahoma or Kansas?
Colorado.
There was.
Oh, never mind. Never mind.
It was. I believe it was Kansas or Oklahoma. They had a bounty out. They were running a contest. I forget how much the money was to bag one.
Oh,
whatever became of that.
I thought that was a spoof. I didn't know if that was a real thing or not.
That was a real thing. Yeah, here very recent. Wow. Yeah,
I know California passed the thing saying that like if you were to shoot one, you could get like manslaughter or homicide charges or something like that.
But they don't exist, right?
Ouch. Yeah, they don't exist. But if you shoot one, you're in trouble.
Okay. And there's police cars. On a police car, they've got an emblem of a Bigfoot on their police car in their symbol.
Yeah, but they don't exist.
Signs everywhere. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, if you look in Florida's, you look in Florida's game laws.
Yes.
There's on one of the pages it says no taking of skunk apes.
Yeah, I did hear of that, and there's something in Georgia as well, I believe Georgia or Kentucky has something in one of their gaming bylaws, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. The Oklahoma, Kansas thing, whatever it was, is the publicity stunt.
Hey, David, is it Oregon or Washington that has the same thing?
It must be Washington. Must be
one
Washington.
of those states.
I did hear of a state doing that as a publicity stunt right when they did a raffle for some sort of license to take some sort of animal. I think it was like an elk or buffalo or something like that they did a raffle every year because that was all their season was. Like if you got the tag through raffle, you were lucky. So they did it to try and like boost more sales or something like that.
But in my book, most people are. I'm sorry, Jared. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying real quick. 5 states have a law against taking them.
I mean,
but
if you're an anti-government guy like me, you think to yourself, well, if they're putting this out there saying it's not real, it's probably real. You know, look how long they turned UFOs away. Oh, there's no such thing as UFOs. They don't exist.
And UFOs exist. To be honest, like guys, be careful. If anybody goes out there, Michaux State Forest in Pennsylvania, starts hiking and hunting and hanging out and camping and stuff, there are cats up there.
Mm-hmm.
The DCNR will tell you no, there are not. I had a landlord before I moved on the mountain that raised horses. He had a horse taken with cat bite marks in its throat, and they tried to say it was a coyote or a bear when you could tell it was definitely a cat's mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But they released them 1 or 2 or something like that as a thing, and it was to keep populations down of the deer because there was a slack in like a decade of like hunting sales in that area or something like that at the time. But they never they never was like, yeah, we did it, but we didn't do it type of thing, you know.
Yeah, they claim that we don't have them here, but I know damn well they are because I've seen them.
Hey, Monkey Wrench, thank you. Yes, Allegheny, June, sounds awesome. 19th through the 22nd. Ooh, that'll be right after my kid's birthday and Colt's birthday too. So yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and then right before that, they're having a conference up there too.
Okay, I knew Ware's Cave, West Virginia. Where's it, Virginia?
It's Virginia. Ware's Cave's in Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia. That's the ECBRO or the ECBRBO or whatever. East Coast Bigfoot organization is they're hosting their thing there in Ware's Cave this year. And it's sometime in, you can look at it.
That's Daniel Benoit's group, isn't it?
Yeah, Daniel Benoit. Yep.
Yeah.
Great guy. Yeah. He does a lot too. He does great.
Yeah, I gotta talk to him and get him on here.
I've talked to him through email and through text and stuff. He's him and his brother got stuff going on. They get out there. Yep.
Hey, I dug up Wyatt Earp for an interview last week. I can do anything.
Wyatt Earp.
Hey, I just want to say, animals don't know borders. So when they tell you that they're not in your state, an animal doesn't stop at the state line. Right. So if it's the state below you, there's a good chance eventually that animal's going to be in your state.
Especially if you got a big trail that goes all the way from Maine to Georgia. Absolutely. I think there's a probability it'll find a way to walk that area.
Hey, when we were hunting in Maine, and they were talking about, you know, grizzlies coming in from Canada, and the people were going on about it, and my guide looks at me and goes, "Those things don't know what border crossings are."
Yeah, really, no doubt. Yeah, that's like telling a free range chicken not to go out of your yard. It's going to go where it wants to find food.
That's absolutely right.
So I know local farmers like that.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff, if you didn't have a fence between your pasture, wouldn't your cows go on your neighbor's land?
Yeah. I mean,
most likely.
They do.
Normally,
Anyway.
when they get out of the fence, they just stay next to it because they know I'm going to feed them here shortly. So
let your cat out. Right? It ain't going to just walk circles around your house till it gets tired and comes back in. You know?
Right.
Even domestic animals don't have borders, you know, until you enforce them. But that's how it's really supposed to be, I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's the
I
circle of
think I think actually, like, even though I am spiritual and have a religious background, who knows? Maybe we're the ones that were intervened with from a higher power from outside of here, and that's why we're so soft and brittle. You know what I mean? Out of everything else in nature, other than jellyfish and octopuses. You know what I mean? Like, nature's resilient, and it's obvious, but who's to say we weren't the ones that were spun around a little bit in a test tube or something by some other kind of thing?
Yeah, Hawaii, I think.
Plan, hey.
maybe we're
other jets.
Maybe we're the invasive creature.
There's other stories of other cultures and stuff saying that they were brought here by other beings and things. But who knows? Maybe the translation or interpretation was wrong. Maybe we were the ones that were part of them. Look, we got all this going on, beards and shit, Who knows? Maybe they were the ones that were here first, and we were the ones that got spun around with, and that's why we have the religious gene, so to say, or the spirituality gene, that something to
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Makes sense.
I'm just throwing out theories, though. My mind's always looking at everything from other angles. Open up the onion to see what's in the core.
Don't get
my question everything. I mean, that's how I am. No matter what you're looking at.
Mind speak experience that I had, as soon as that started talking about religion, and I said my beliefs, and then I heard those couple of pops that sounded like it was right behind my back on the other side of the tree stump, and I heard that noise, and I couldn't move. That was what convinced me that it definitely has some kind of thing to do with something. It's just who's anyone to actually say anything until they actually figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
All we can do is try, or attempt, I should say. Just trying ain't really doing nothing. You got to attempt it. You got to go out and do it. Trying's just thinking about it.
Okay. Well, we're pushing 2 hours here, guys.
Oh boy.
We're gonna. I don't see any more questions right now, so we're gonna go ahead and get ready to call it a night. I do believe, and we appreciate you coming on, Dusty. That was.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
I know Michaux has always been has always had my curiosity, because I've been through there several times, but never spent the night or anything there. But it's coming.
It's so close to us, Jerry.
And it's close, 2 hours, not even 2 hours.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody ever wants to go up there and just find things that, like, what do you think is good? I'm down to be like, hey, point you in the right direction and just go out camping. You know what I mean? I got a recorder. I got a journal. I actually have a leatherback journal that I record in every time that I do stuff, even when I was just going out looking for nature, recording for game trails.
I don't know. Did I tell you about when I got there on Friday?
Mm-mm.
As soon as I pulled into that place just gave off the feeling.
Oh, yeah. See, I have an old school leather bound, like, I document things whenever I'd be out hunting. If I seen activity, no matter what, it'd be like, all right, this time of day, the weather conditions, climate, blah, 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 blah. This was up in the moon was at this,
Yeah.
rotation or, everything. And I got that from my dad, because of doing the whole like scouting and everything. We'd go to Green Ridge and scout out for a day before we even went hunting.
You're very welcome, Sherry.
Yep.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you.
Miss Mary, her show is tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. Monkey Winch podcast. She says she'll have a special announcement.
Hope she's feeling better. I really do. It would have been cool. She would have been able to make it out. Definitely gonna have to check the show out tomorrow.
Yeah, at the end of her podcast tomorrow night, she's going to make a special announcement about something. So 7:30 tomorrow night.
Tune in, guys.
Check it out.
Special announcement.
Check it out.
Okay. All right. Jeff.
Don't tell us you're retiring, Mary.
No, she ain't
Besson.
retiring.
You're just getting started.
Mary doing that.
Yep. Okay. Stick around, Dusty. Do we go backstage here after we get through the outro and stuff? Blackie, appreciate you coming on tonight, brother, and helping out.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
David, Milkman. We'll be back next Tuesday.
Everybody.
Absolutely. We'll be back next Wednesday. Tuesday, I mean. And get us lined up somewhere.
Yeah, don't be stepping on Mary's
I'll find
Wednesday.
something.
She'll smash you like the Hulk.
For sure. Yeah, I know. Actually, I do have a show tomorrow night at 8:00, but not.
Uh-oh. You going on Mary's show? Announcement?
I have a podcast.
Yeah, he does tractor pulls.
Do the tractor pull.
Tractor pools. Nice.
Oh yeah.
I've seen you at the tractor pools before. You did
Probably
always
have.
familiar when I seen you online, and I was like, oh, I've seen this guy somewhere before.
Oh,
We used to
probably.
go to them all the time.
Shippensburg, all around Shippensburg, and
Okay.
you name it. I've been all over the place.
You do Carroll County at all, or Frederick area?
Westminster.
Yeah, that's where I see you.
Westminster. Frederick, Maryland
right.
every year. Yep.
Hey, I'm in Tawnytown right now. I
Yeah.
grew up in
I got
Mayberry.
friends out in Tawnytown. Okay.
I grew up in Mayberry.
I'll be darned.
Don't ever
How
call
about
me Opie.
Thank you, Lordy.
Yeah, I know some people out around the Tawnytown area used to pool. So Earl Howard. Of course, Earl Howard passed away. But Ed Smith, not a super stock for many years. He lives in Tawnytown. So.
Yeah.
Okay, rambling on. Next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Jeffrey will get us lined up with somebody. You guys stick around. We'll go backstage here.
Be there, be square. Bring a friend, guys.
That's right.
Yeah.
These guys are on every week.
Come on back. See us next week. Right, Jeff? Come on, Jeff.
Yeah. Way to stay awake.
Well, I just wanted to thank Dusty for coming on with us tonight because I was hoping I'd get something out of the Michaux camp out, and we got more friends. And
A wild Donnie.
yeah, you got a wild kid over there for sure.
Maybe you'll get a chance to meet the teenage ones. Oh,
There you go.
Oh Lord.
they're all the same.
Everybody in chat, we love you. Thank you. And we'll see everybody next week. You guys stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Thank you,
See
guys.
ya.